Wait, I'm trying to set it up a little bit. I don't know what to do. Does it work? I feel like it's a lot of black on black. I don't know if you can see me well. I hope you can. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Emil's Writing Club. We're here for the third episode, and I'm so sorry for making you wait so long. But I'm back with some new ideas and better organization, so it should be fine. This is the very first episode recorded on film, and I'm so happy because I've been willing to do this from the start, but unfortunately I couldn't do so because of the means and also because I was really excited to start. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it with just a microphone. But now I feel like it's lacking something. Therefore, here I am with the filming options, and I hope you're gonna enjoy that too. For those who are new here, hi, I'm so happy to have you here with us. I know many of you might be new because a lot of people turned into me on some reels that I made on Instagram and worked pretty well. So if you're joining the club of writers, let me introduce you to our writing club. This podcast is going to be mostly about the struggles that I face as a writer. It's the first time that I'm writing a book, and I wanted to share with you the struggles that I faced, the solution that I found, and I wanted it to be interactive because I know that I'm not the only one out there to be writing a book, and I really wanted us to be a real community. I don't want just to be out there giving you my experience. I also want you to comment or reach me out on Instagram and tell me what your experiences are so that I can then share it in next episodes with the rest of the community so that we can all grow together. And I had a few replies from people which helped me to build new episodes. This is the reason why it's interactive. If you have any ideas that you would like me to bring forward, any subjects you'd like me to talk about, that's entirely possible. I think the best way to improve is also being part of a community. That's why I really want you to be involved too. I'm calling it Emil's Writing Club because that's the first name I came up with, and it was a way for me to sign it, but it's kind of a club for all of us. Therefore, I'll be available on my DMs on Instagram if you want to reach me out, ask me any questions. I'll be available to answer. Honestly, for the few talks I had with you guys, I love to hear about your writing process, your writing experiences, what you're writing about. So many of you are already writing a book, and we can do it together. So don't hesitate to share it with the rest of the community because I'd love to know more about your projects too. But yeah, it's been a long time that I haven't posted, mostly because of a very poor organization, but I am back with a better organization and hopefully more regular episodes. This actually makes me think that I should make probably an episode on motivation and organization, so if you're interested in a subject like this, don't hesitate to tell me. The subject of this third episode wasn't planned in the first place, but it just came up to me as I was reading a book that I saw everywhere on my French YouTube. For my French auditors, there's a lot of chance that you know about this person. He is a very well-known YouTuber in France. His name is Fabien Olicard. And the book is called Votre attention est votre super pouvoir. In English, your attention is your superpower. To give a little bit of context around the author, for those who don't know too much about him, he is a mentalist. I think that's the word in English. And he makes a lot of videos about the human brain, the way it works, and tricks to, for example, memorize stuff. Back when I was following him, I remember him doing a lot of puzzles videos where he was trying to solve puzzles. You were following him. It was kind of fun. But the video I watched the most are the one where he talks about how the brain works and the different influences around it. Lately, he's been doing a lot of videos on attention and especially how social media impacts our attention. I would say mostly in order to promote his book, and I would say it worked well because I'm here with the book in my hand. And the book has specifically been designed to allow people who don't usually read or go through their entire books to finish it. The reason why I started this book in the first place was really to understand my social media addiction and to try to find a solution to this, because in my everyday life, it really is a problem for someone like me who has a lot of projects. It really talks about a variety of subjects. I know that one of the numbers who struck me was about the infinity scroll. Basically, it's this idea that when you scroll, there is no end. Before, it was kind of like on Google Pages. When you're on Google and there's all the links, once you're at the bottom, you need to change page. And now on social media, it's not like this. You can scroll and scroll and scroll, and it's like if there's no end. Well, this invention ruins approximately the equivalent of 200,000 lives every day. If we combine all humans on Earth right now on social media scrolling, that's what's happening. And I have to be honest, this number really struck me. And it really made me think of my social media addiction and how much time it made me waste. I feel like the number is so huge. And when you talk about lives, I don't even want to know about hours. And one of the idea they brought up in the book that really helped me was this thing that most of the time we don't avoid boredom, we avoid the lack of solicitation and outside solicitation. Before we dive into our experiences, I really wanted to go back on what was said in the book so that you can have a little bit of the information that I have right now. I'm going to pick up my phone for a second so that I can read to you what I wrote. In this part, Fabian talks about a study made by Eric Dane at the University of St. Louis in the United States. Eric Dane's specialty was about human behaviors. And in this study, he discovered that most people don't know the difference between boredom and the lack of solicitation. Because if we're honest here, our brain never truly does nothing. There's always something going on in our brain. Only what we're looking for is solicitations. We just want something to happen. We need something to happen. If we sit in a chair and look in the distance, we're not going to have just a blank thing in our brain. We're going to be thinking about things. We're going to be imagining things. In other words, we're not scared of this idea of a blank brain. We're more scared of where our thoughts will lead us because we have no idea where our boredom is going to take us. It's always so much more easier to get information that has been thought all the way through by other people rather than think about it ourselves. How many times did we watch a TV show or read a book and the plot was so amazing and you were just like, that's so well thought out? In a way, you can invent those kind of stories, but you need the time, you need the boredom. It's so much more satisfying to get this genius plot from a book or a TV show that's already made. Because if we try boredom in order to find this genius plot, we're not 100% sure the plot is going to be genius. We're going to go on the right path because there are so many paths for imagination that are you sure it's going to be the right path for the greatest story you will ever write? So boredom is scary. Boredom is really scary. I know it's a problem for me because every time that I try to invent or come up with an idea, I'm so scared of going through one path instead of another. And sometimes I feel like I'm lacking a chance to write the best story I will ever write. Even though we really shouldn't stay too much on perfectionism because that is not what's going to take us anywhere. But that's how my brain works. So I feel like boredom is also really related to that. I'm scared to be bored because I'm scared of having to choose between one and another. I've seen this joke so many times on TikTok. We just want to sit around and daydream about our characters because it's so much easier, right? Why would we do anything else? And also because it's scary to imagine a story and write it into stone. In those kind of situations, we're just trying to avoid discomfort because it's kind of uncomfortable to have to choose. But in the same study, it also shows that boredom unlocks creativity and curiosity as our brain is going to wander around. And I think we can relate that a lot to writer's block. We're all scared of this first white page, but not because it's white, not because it's empty, but because when you're facing this page, you're also facing boredom. You also have to face your imagination. You have to allow yourself to get bored. And in the world where we live in, most of the time we don't want to get bored. We just want to scroll on our phones because we'll always have something to distract us. It's again this stress of having to take one path and not another. The fact that if we want to write some words on this page, we kind of need to get bored in order to connect with our creativity sometimes can be scary. We cannot scroll on our phones, watch a movie, read a book, engage in a very entertaining activity if we want to get creative. If we want those ideas to come into our brain, we kind of need to take a break from all those entertainments. And since I've learned about this, I realized how much I lost most of my chances to get bored. With our phones right next to us all the time, we don't have to get bored. And I think this is what is slowing us down too. When you want to write, you have to face this, you have to get bored. And it's so hard when we're so used to just picking our phones and having fun. Don't want to be left alone with your own thoughts? It's okay. Just open TikTok and watch some edits of your favorite characters. That's actually something that I might be doing a little bit too much. Please don't go in my TikTok repost. I have way too much of those. But to go back to the main subject, in the book they give us some ideas on how to get bored. It's kind of weird said like that, because who would actually want to get bored? But I guess if we want to write this book, we need to. Here are the ideas. First, there's always a moment throughout our days where we can allow ourselves to be bored. It can be in the public transport when you're going to school, when you're going to work. It can be while you're waiting for a doctor's appointment. Any time during your day where you take out your phone for no reason just because you're scared of staring people in the eyes or getting bored. This is your moment to stop yourself and take a time to get bored and lock yourself with your imagination. Then you can also try to trigger this boredom. There are many activities that we can do in our daily life that do not involve too much of our attention, enough for us to get bored. In the book, they give us some examples like going on a walk or building some Legos if it doesn't require too much thoughts for you. I know that some people it's more difficult than others. It can also be cooking. There are many things that we do that do not require our entire attention. As long as it doesn't require too much focus for you, it should work. And as a matter of fact, I remember Leigh Bardugo talking about this in one of her interviews. For those who follow me, you probably know that I'm really obsessed with Leigh Bardugo's books, especially Six of Crows duology. In an interview, she said that when she was writing her first book, it was really hard for her to deal with writer's block. So what she did most of the time was going on a walk and having an imaginary conversation with her editor, because at the time she didn't have any. And this requires boredom. If you want to invent things, you need your mind to take space. You need your mind to deal with the information that's already in your head and let them wander and find ideas instead of bringing more information to your brain all the time. That's why it's so important to get bored, to block yourself from this shot of information that we get daily. And I'm not saying don't pay attention to anything around you. Of course not. You can get inspired from little things, but it doesn't have to take your entire attention like social media does. She also gives the idea of taking a bath, which can be a good idea for you if you also want to relax, can help to trigger a little bit of your imagination. For me, it's going to be a little bit difficult because for those who've seen my move out video, I am in an apartment where I only have a shower. So bath is going to be hard. But you get my point. I'm putting out there the advice in case it can help anyone. And after finding all those informations, I tried to reflect a little bit on my experience and on the times where I was mostly inspired or bored, or on the times where, on the contrary, it was really difficult to find any ideas. And if we're honest right here, most of us make scenarios in our heads right before bed. When we're going to bed, we know it's going to be hard to fall asleep if we're on our phone scrolling. We know we purposely need to put it down in order to sleep. So we need to take this action of putting our phones down and putting ourselves to bed and letting our brain do absolutely nothing. And that's also where we find it hard to sleep because that's where our imagination kicks in and just takes some space in our brain. And for this video, I tried to experience boredom a little bit and see how it impacted my imagination. I stopped scrolling in the tramway. I tried to have imaginary conversations in my head with my characters. And here is how I understood a little bit more about how boredom works on me. I don't know for you guys, but I have a mind that tends to wander very easily. Therefore, it was really hard for me to get bored on a specific subject in my head. I needed to have a very specific environment in order to keep me in those same train of thoughts. For those who want to know more about how to build a good environment for writing, I already made a podcast episode about this. It was the first one. Don't hesitate to go check that. It's going to be a little different of what we're going to talk in this video. For those who've watched the first episode of this podcast, we talked about how to build a good environment for a writer. And I took back a lot of information from there because I realized that if I wanted to get bored on a specific subject, especially on my writing, I needed to make sure that my brain would stay focused on the subject. For example, from what I've experienced, it was really difficult for me to get bored or creative on my story when people were having a completely different conversation right next to me. So I also tried with my earphones in without music, just cutting the sound. But again, my brain tended to wander around subject in my everyday life. I was mostly thinking about things that I was worried about. I was thinking about the things that I needed to do afterwards. So it wasn't really good for my story. So what worked for me the best, and is also an advice that I gave in my very first episode, is I decided to play music related to the theme of my book. As I'm writing a fantasy book, it's going to be so much easier to focus on the theme if the music has this vibe. It keeps my mind from wandering too much, but still allowing it to get bored. I haven't experienced that for a long time yet, but I'm gonna try to keep you posted in the future episodes. And don't hesitate to tell me also if you test it out. I feel like it depends on everyone. Some of you might not be bothered by people talking next to you. Others will be completely fine with your earphones without music. It just depends on everyone. But the most important thing here is to get bored. No matter what the way, no matter what works for you, just get bored. If I keep myself bored in the correct condition, I have more chances to find the rest of my story rather than while scrolling on TikTok and watching Kaz and Connor's edit, even though I wish I could be doing this all day. Anyway, on this note, it is the end of this third episode. I hope you enjoyed it. For those who are new, these are very short episodes. It's a sort of mini podcast of me journaling on my experience. This is the reason why most of them are around 13 to 15 minutes. If you end up experiencing boredom and you want to share it with me, don't hesitate. My DMs are still open on Instagram. You can comment underneath my YouTube videos. I would be very glad to talk about it with you. For the auditors, my Instagram is EMIL_BLE, Emil Blay. You should be able to find me there, and I will try to answer as quickly as possible. It was honestly really nice to be filming again. I have been missing this for a long time, talking about writing, so I'm really happy that we were able to do this together, and I can't wait to see you in our next episode in 2 weeks, where we're going to be talking about the different writing softwares that I discovered. I know it's a subject that I wanted to talk about for a long time. One of you came to me talking about how Google Docs was using our data in order to improve artificial intelligence, and I know some of you are bothered by this. This is the reason why I really wanted also to share that and develop on an episode on writing software so that you guys can truly choose. But on this note, I'm going to stop this episode. As always, take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and I'll see you next week on YouTube.